everyone, and welcome to part 2 of how to make an arcade shooter in Unity. So last time we created this concept art sketch. We're going to have a triangle-shaped spaceship, be able to shoot lasers that can interact with switches and stuff, and it's got to fly through this cave as far as it can get, and it'll raise its score the further it goes, and we'll add some extra stuff to make the game more interesting. Now I'd like to focus on getting the player moving. So I created this new Unity project, and I imported sprites for the player ship and the laser. So I'd like to get started with how the player ship is going to move around. We want it to move up and down in the cave area, and meanwhile we want it to scroll to the right for the game itself, and we want the ship to move along with the camera at the same time. So the way we can do that is actually pretty simple. We make the player ship a child of our camera, and because of this, our ship moves along with the camera. As you can see, I got the camera selected, and I move it around, and the ship moves too at the same pace. But at the same time, I can still move the ship up and down without affecting the camera itself. So now for the way the camera is going to move, we just want it to scroll to the right. We can easily do that by attaching a script and just basically, well, we want it to accelerate to the right, but so we're going to have to attach a rigid body on this so we can manipulate a velocity component. However, we also want to keep our gravity scale at 0, and I believe we want to set it to is kinematic, because doing that will make it so it doesn't interact with physics at all. Only code can make it move and rotate and that kind of stuff. As for the player, we want both a box collider and a rigid body 2D. Once again, set the gravity scale to 0, and we want this to be at a fixed angle. And the same goes for our camera, to be fixed. And that's really because we wanted our game to progress along a straight line without any rotation. So now that we have our player and camera locked to each other, and with the components we need to start with, let's create a new script for the player movement. And what I want this script to do is just to move it up and down. And this is pretty simple to do. We access the rigid body component. Okay, now that loading menu is gone. We access the rigid body component and manipulate the up and down velocity when you press W or S. So here's our script. And the way you search for an input on the keyboard, you use an if statement. And we're going to search for input for the key for when a key is pressed, and that key code is going to be W. The second key is going to be S, and then the third is going to be for when none of them are pressed. And I want these else statements here because I want it to check key input, and then if there is no key input, then set the velocity to 0. Alright, now let's get it moving up and down. As I said before, I'm going to get the component for the rigid body 2D and modify the velocity. I wanted to set it equal to a new vector 2, and I want it to travel 0 in the x direction, and let's start with 3 in the Y direction. We'll modify it in case we need to. I'm just going to set it to 0, and so -3 for when you go down, and 0 when you're not supposed to be moving. Let's see how well this worked. So it goes up, and it goes down. Now, if it feels a little slow, that's fine because we shouldn't be adjusting our speed until we start building our levels and seeing how we want it to play out. Because right now, we still have a pretty blank template. Alright, now for how we're going to get it to pan to the right. As I said before, we want to just attach a new script. Let's just name it camera panning. Now here's the thing about camera panning, is that we want the camera to slowly speed up as you progress through the game. What I could do is just attach it to a timer and make it so you just have to play through the game in real time. Like, after 15 seconds it'll be traveling faster than at 0 seconds. Or I could tie it to the score. So there are a lot of different possibilities. But for now, I just want to move it at a constant speed for the sake of testing. So it's going to be very similar to what we did for our player, only this time I want to modify the X component and not the Y component. Let's have X move at 5 and Y to move at 0. Now I won't be able to tell whether or not it's moving, so I'm just going to create some 3D objects and just place them around. You don't have to worry about your player running into them, because 2D colliders cannot interact with 3D colliders. As you can see, these are 3D colliders connected to the objects. Now click play. That's weird. Player's not moving along with you. Well, this is interesting. The player is moving, but very slowly. I'm thinking this is because in our script here, we set our player velocity to be 0 in the X direction at all times, and because of that, it cannot move alongside of the camera. At least that's my theory. An easy solution is just set it as the same speed as the camera. Now if I were to click play, our player is moving at the same speed as our camera. And if we want to, we can add left and right movement. I don't see the point of it right now, but that's just part of our player movement. So we got it moving up and down, but there's a few problems, like I don't want to be able to go up infinitely, and what I could do, actually going up infinitely won't be a problem, because we're going to make it so our ship gets destroyed and loses a life whenever you run into a wall. So all we really need to do is just make sure there's going to be a wall on the top and bottom at all times. But for now, I think we're just about done with this episode. So we have our player moving, and next time we are going to use these laser sprites to create just a get the player's shooting going. So it'll be able to shoot 2 or 3 different lasers, and I want it to flash between these 2 colors rapidly, just so it has the illusion of just a beam of energy. I also want this laser to destroy when it gets off screen, so when it goes far enough to the right, and when it collides with any other object, like the walls and stuff. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions about this video, please let me know. I hope you're looking forward to this game that we are making, and goodbye.